not make CloudOnyx your communication partner? Go to cloudonyx.io. You can find everything about the VUC at vuc.me, thanks to Bluehost, and thanks also to zipdx.com, the conference bridge, and to voxphone.com for local rate dial-ins. Those of you who are watching playing the drinking game, right here, yes. I did not get a perfect score there, did I? All right, we're going to talk for just a second, remind you that our guest, Abbi Minessale, is not going to Berlin until later. She will not be there so cancel your plans because it's not worth going to Camellia. No, I'm kidding. You've got to come, meet everybody, meet James, meet me, meet whoever else is going to be there. Simon Woodhead's going to be there, a bunch of interesting people. We really wish Abbi was going to be there, and we wish Kathleen was going to be there too. But there will be, I guess Michael's coming, so there will be a representative of FreeSWITCH there. It's May 14th to 16th in Berlin, 2018, hopefully, because that's the year this is, right? Anyway, let me run over here. I always comment this because my mouse disappears, and then I have to go back over to here where I do this. And now, without further ado, I'm going to show you something much better than my face. Abbi, welcome to the VUC. Glad to have you with us.
Hi, thank you for having me.
It's wonderful to have you. It took a while to arrange, and I'm going to tell you how this happened. James, when he was in Chicago for ClueCon, came back with a report he could not say enough good. He said, boy, you have to watch this young lady. She's fantastic. And I did watch some of your YouTube stuff. And the first thing, you know, when one searches on your name, Abbi, obviously it comes up with some of your theatrical work.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Before we get to that, I would like to know, first of all, we ask everybody who comes on really how they got into tech. Now, it's just sort of obvious, but let's hear about your awakening growing up in the Minessale family.
Yeah, so obviously I have some pretty big shoes to fill. My dad is Anthony Minessale. He is like co-creator of FreeSWITCH, and I was about 8 years old, I think, when FreeSWITCH was first made, the first year it was made. So I've been hearing about it almost every year of my life. So I'm really just immersed in it, and I've been going to ClueCon for 7 years, which is less. Yeah, I remember the first year of ClueCon, I wasn't allowed to go because I was too little and they didn't want to have to watch me while they were busy, giving talks and, setting up. So I wasn't allowed to go until 7 years ago. So that was very exciting for me. But I started off really not adverse to it, but when there's such big shoes to fill, I was like, I don't know, I'm not really into it. And I remember my dad really, really, really wanted to teach me programming, and my little brother, Eric, he's 18 now, so he's not so little anymore. But I remember we'd go out to restaurants and we'd go out to eat, and he'd be like, how many bits are in a byte? I'm like, oh my gosh, Dad, would you stop asking me that? But a couple years ago, I was thinking and I was like, oh, this is actually really cool. And I was at ClueCon. I was like, wow, these people are really cool. And I like meeting everybody, and I like seeing all the different things people are making. So I was like, maybe I'd like to get started in this. So my dad was like, okay, well, you can try, running the blog and doing some social media posts. So for a while I was writing the FreeSWITCH blog, things about ClueCon and things that are happening in the tech world, and making social media posts for FreeSWITCH. And I've taken a little bit of a hiatus from that right now because it's my last year of college, so I'm about to graduate, so I'm very busy. But I decided I'm going to start taking a computer programming class. So I'm not super into the tech, but since I've been surrounded by it my whole life, I decided I should start learning. So that's where I am.
That's fantastic. And I mentioned the theatrical thing, and I want to get to that. But one of the reasons you're effective, obviously, and that you impress James, I would say, is because you've been studying that. And how did that come about? You're interested in acting, and you're interested in communicating visually and personally, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I've been acting since I was about 8 years old, which is the same time FreeSWITCH was made, coincidentally. And my mom was like, "Hey, little 8-year-old Abby, would you like to audition for a play?" And I was like, "Nah, I'm scared I won't get in. I'm kind of shy," but I decided to do it anyway because I guess 8-year-old me was brave. And I got in, and I really liked it, and I got bit by the bug, and I've been doing it ever since. I did it all the way through high school. That's what I'm studying right now. I'm about to get my BFA in May 5th. And so, yeah, I found it really helps me in this setting because, I mean, I talked about this a little bit if you guys watched the ClueCon Weekly with the women in WebRTC, but I feel like, of course, engineers can be very social and are very creative, but sometimes it's hard to communicate with people who aren't so tech savvy. So it's nice to have somebody who can, you know, kind of understand like what they're trying to say and find different ways to communicate it with people who maybe are more interested in sales or more interested in product than how it works. So I find that's very helpful.
What you described there is a bona fide career path, and that somebody has to provide sort of the intellectual middleware to go between the brilliant engineers and the layman clients who just need the stuff.
I feel like I fit somewhere right in between there.
Yeah, and clearly you've got all the communication skills. It's there. You can stand up and talk to anyone and make it good. So if you can then combine that with the uber techie kind of family stuff that you've got it made.
Yeah, so I'm working right now on the techie stuff. So I'm still a beginner, but you know, I have a pretty powerful weapon on my side down in the basement. So
and to be perfectly honest, you don't need to know the nitty-gritty stuff.
Yeah.
As long as you grasp the big stuff and the exciting bits that are coming out and you're able to tell the world about it and get them enthused, then that's job done.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I see myself heading. Of course, doing acting as well, but, you know, kind of balancing the two.
Well, I can see you in a couple of years. You're going to have your own kind of web channel and have a gazillion followers and all the rest of it.
Well, I hope that's true.
Abby, tell us a little bit about, I just looked at a page from your university or your college, whatever, for just a couple of minutes, and there wasn't any links to that, but I know that you've been in plays. Tell us a little about that. I mean, what have you been doing? Were you in Shakespearean stuff or something? I mean, you've done a lot of stuff. What plays? Or what kinds of productions?
I love classical. I think Shakespeare is just brilliant. And even though we're slowly finding out maybe it wasn't just William, you know, the work is beautiful. The poetry is beautiful. It's really like the foundation of our language, which I think is so beautiful. So I really love Shakespeare because he can really just capture like human characters. And it's just crazy to think how much people have not changed over so long a period of time. But so back in high school, I was in 12th Night. I was Olivia. It's been a while since I've been in a Shakespeare play, so hopefully pretty soon I'll get a chance to do another one of those. But most recently, I was in Pride and Prejudice, which is another classic.
Ooh,
Yeah, I was the crazy aunt. I was Mrs. Gardiner. So I had like this really pink dress, and it was really fun. And I got to speak in a British dialect, RP.
Can you do British?
Oh, no.
Give us a bit.
Okay. Well, it's not quite. I haven't practiced in a while, but, you know.
That's not bad.
It's not bad. I don't know if I'd fool anyone from England, but, you know, some Americans, you know.
Right. You confirmed it. We're going to have to get you over here and show you some of the bits around there. The film Pride and Prejudice with Keira Knightley, the bit where she's sitting underneath the tree thinking of Mr. Darcy and he comes up out of the mist, was filmed about half a mile that way.
That's the best scene.
Yeah, and a lot of it was, well, it's all filmed around here because kind of we're kind of like that. We're a bit old.
Yeah, I'd like to traveling and get to know, where these things. Yeah, I'm actually this summer I'm going hopping over the lake for the first time ever. I'm going to Nice, I'm going to Berlin, and we're going to some places in Italy. And I'm gonna get to see like one of the original Roman theaters, the big amphitheaters that were shaped like a cone. And I'm really excited just to see where
you're going to love it. And the other thing we've got to work on is getting your dad across here too. Because now that he's flying over to Florida and California and places like that, actually, the international stuff, if you get on a really big plane, it's actually easier.
Really, because my dad and I have that in common. Hopefully he won't be mad at me for saying, but we do not like planes. They make us nervous.
Yeah, when you get into one of these big Dreamliners, there's so much space.
There too.
Yeah, and it's really, really comfortable. And they give you lots of toys to play with.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in-flight entertainment things to play with.
I was a little nervous about that part.
And if you're really lucky, you have an onboard mobile phone system, which for somebody like me is hours of fun.
I'm sure
you don't even have to watch a film because you can play with the signaling channel on that and have a real fun time. Anyway, JB, shut up.
Yes. So, Abby, one of the things that we like to talk about here are people's visions. Now, when somebody's 50 or 70 years old, their visions have been sanded and varnished, and everything's finished, and it's all very clear and all that. I don't know your age, and I'm not going to ask, but I know you're young relative to everyone here. So your visions are less varnished, less sanded and all that. But still, it would be fascinating to find out, like a question that somebody asked me several years ago is, where do you see yourself in 5 years, or where do you see yourself in 10 years? That's a good question. I mean, because you are just about to finish one phase of your education. Are you going to go on to other phases of education? Do you feel you want to do work experience, or are you going to, I know you're going to travel, which is super important, I think, for getting a sense of humanity. What are your plans, just generally? We don't need to include flights or actual details. I'm just asking about your general thing. What do you plan to do in the next few years?
Well, the fun part and the scary part about being young is that my plans are changing very rapidly and without a moment's notice. But, dog shush. Okay. As of now, I plan to. So I go to school in Indiana. So for anyone who's familiar with the states, the Midwest is all kind of one big blob. But I plan to move back home to Wisconsin, but downtown in the Milwaukee area by the lake. And I plan on auditioning for like different plays and working for FreeSWITCH still. So working for FreeSWITCH during the day and doing plays during the night. But I really see myself right now going for a higher education, going to grad school. For more right now, I'm thinking about doing costume design for theater, which is another big passion of mine. It's clothing and sewing and, kind of more of the visual arts rather than the performing arts, and balancing that. But I see myself continuing with the tech path as well, because I think it really fits me, and I think it's just in my blood. It's unavoidable. So I plan on doing that, and then I think in 5 years, I'll probably be on the East Coast, and knock on wood, I'm looking at the Yale program for grad school of drama over on the East Coast because I love the ocean. But if that doesn't work out, I'm thinking about Chicago. It's a big hub. A lot of us have been there for ClueCon. It's a beautiful city, and it has a lot of theater and a lot of tech. So that's what I'm thinking right now. But for all I know, maybe I'll try to go be on TV. I don't know. I do like TV, so we'll see.
Well, that leads me to my next question that I was already thinking about, which is, now at the moment, there was a time a few years ago where we did not have a TV at all. I listened to the radio, believe it or not, James. I listened to the BBC all the time, but BBC. Let's not go into the details. But listen on long wave often. Radio 4, The Archers, all that. But Abbi, I'm pretty familiar with TV from the last few years. And the question I wanted to ask you was from the standpoint of someone who has studied theater, who is interested in production, drama, and so on. What TV shows, if any, do you think, whether it's Netflix, whether it's network, which is rare, have quality? Because what starts the quality in the United States would be The West Wing. If you've ever seen that show, it's very old, but it is the definitive show on network TV as far as quality acting, as far as quality production. Every detail, you mentioned costume design, every single detail in that show, as old as it is, was impeccable. Are there shows that you find a lot to admire in, is my question.
Oh, yes. Okay, so yeah, I'm a big fan of TV. Like, you know, we have Hulu, Netflix, I watch the Amazon Prime shows. I watch a lot of TV, and I think it's a little cliche, but I really think we're in another golden age of television because the acting is so good and the costumes are so good and like the content is so good. I really, again, it's a little bit cliche, but it's popular for a reason. Orange is the New Black, I think, is really good. It was the first Netflix original to gain like popularity, which I think launched us into a whole new thing. And it's like not the first time, but it's one of the most impactful times that not only women, but different actors of different sizes and colors and shapes have really gotten really good parts that have nothing to do with their size. Because a lot of times when you're watching, you know, classic sitcoms, which there's nothing wrong with being thin, but all the women are kind of like blonde, thin, they all kind of look the same. But now I feel like the television producers are really trying to imitate real life a little bit more, which I think people connect to a lot better, which just makes the content better. I just started watching Breaking Bad. I don't really love violence, so it took me a while, but it's really good. It's really witty. I love like the choices of the music, and the costume design is just so detailed, and the actors are just like amazing. So I feel like because there's so much content nonstop, because of course the internet, we're looking at new content nonstop. Like the kids nowadays like are obsessed with YouTube. I feel like it's forced television to like up its game in order to get people to start paying attention to that again instead of just going to YouTube. So I think things are going in a really good direction. I would love to be part of it someday.
I think you could. I 100% agree with you on Orange is the New Black. I saw that. That was one of the first things I watched when I first got Netflix. It's an original production. I agree with everything you said. They have done a great job. First of all, the production's great, but also, and the acting is impeccable, and it's diversity city, right? I mean, as you said, it's not just that it's women. After all, it's women's prison. It is mostly women, although, and I think you'd agree, the male characters are terrific mostly. I mean, they're horrible. A couple of them are horrible people, but they are great characterizations, right? And Breaking Bad is fantastic as well, and that has some interesting female characters in it. I think that diversity in general on television has gotten to the point. I mean, there are Black-oriented shows like Survivor's Remorse was a show that's on Showtime, which was absolutely amazing. It showed life exactly the way it happens, and sometimes that can be good. Sometimes it's not entertaining, but painful to watch. You know, you watch anything that's painful to watch. I mean, I agree with you about the violence, by the way. Breaking Bad, I avoided that for a while for that reason, but it's so amazing that you have to watch it.
Yeah, it's like done. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, is there anything where you're cringing from the violence, but you still watch thinking it's good? Because I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a new Netflix show. I'm not gonna swear, but it's End of the Effing World, and it's gross, but it's so good. I cannot look away, but it's gross.
I have seen that. Also, there's another. there's another show. I can't remember if it's Netflix or not. It's Future Man, where a guy is you know about that? A guy is a gamer and he gets some people from it's science fiction, but it's comedy science fiction. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes. I saw that. I've seen a couple episodes and that's pretty good, but that can be really gross too.
Yeah, gross is, that's right. They go for a certain thing and sometimes it grosses everybody out. And then that one, actually, we watched that, but it's kind of like when there's nothing else available, we watch that one. There's a lot of great stuff on. Anyway, I asked you about that because of the production aspect of it. Over the years, there's been a lot of, other than the West Wing, I'm trying to think, I'm racking my brain. I don't think of anything that's been impeccable like that. But everybody watches the HBO thing. I can't think of the name of it now.
Friends, maybe.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, Game of Thrones. I don't watch that because it's just too much for me. But it's supposed to be great.
Yeah, everyone tells me it's amazing, and also it's like lofty. Like each episode's really long, and it's been on so long that I don't think I could start. It's just too much.
Yeah. And then again, in the context of you being interested in the production aspect, what about movies? I personally, I'm not going to go on and on. I just want to say that I mentioned this earlier on social media. As you get older, time flies even faster. So every week, when it's Friday, I go, oh my God, the week's already gone. And yet, if I have to watch a movie, even a great movie, I look at the clock and I'm going, wait a minute, 2 hours seems like an infinity of time. Yeah. So what movies have you seen? Have you seen any of the Academy Award winners? Have you seen Shape of Water? Any of those? What impressed you production wise?
Well, I haven't seen, like I said before, I mean, I like movies, but I kind of am the same way. Like I'll spend maybe like all day like drawing and watching a TV series, but then the thought of like going to see a movie for 2 hours for some reason is like, oh, I can't be doing that. But I haven't seen Shape of Water. I heard it was really good. I don't really follow the Oscars, which maybe I should, but I just saw Black Panther, which was really good. And I think, of course, a game changer for the movie industry, just like TV is. Like, I think people are really understanding that when you reach out to certain communities, like they're going to respond, and people like to see what they see in everyday life. They don't always like to see like the glamorous way things have always been done. And plus, it was just a really well done movie. The costumes were gorgeous. I watched some videos about it. They were all inspired by different African tribes, which is really cool. And this one's controversial, but I don't know if it's like the world's most impeccable movie, but The Last Jedi. But I am obsessed with that movie, and I love the Star Wars franchise, so I really liked seeing that.
Yeah, I enjoyed that too. And believe it or not, my daughter auditioned for the Daisy Ridley.
No way!
No, I'm afraid she did. Yeah. So my dear darling daughter graduated from Bristol University with a first in drama with English.
Oh wow!
And my intent for her was to get her to be Doctor Who's assistant. So then I could be Doctor Who's assistant's dad. But as it happened, she didn't quite make it, but her flatmate did. And her flatmate was Doctor Who's assistant's mum in the last series. Can you believe that?
Oh, that's insane.
Yeah, and saved the whole of the planet Earth just by smiling at people.
Oh my gosh.
And I was watching this thing thinking, I know who that is. And Sophie, my wife, said, oh, it's only Annabella's flatmate. Anyway.
Well, lucky for your daughter, Doctor Who's been on a long time, and I think
it certainly has, yeah.
Got a night. And same with Star Wars. They're going to make
I think Star Wars is absolutely brilliant.
I think it's really well done. I think they're really good at manipulating plot structure, like the classic Greek plot structure, in a new way, which is why people like it so much, because it's like familiar, but it's kind of not.
That's right, and they're just good stories, aren't they? The plot line is just brilliant.
So I'm really excited to see the next one, but I know a lot of internet trolls are not.
Abby, have you seen Star Trek Discovery? The new, it's CBS All Access, so you may or may not have. Everybody has. Anyone with this tech family has access to.
And don't mention Cody. Don't say anything about Cody, whatever you do.
Cody.
Oh.
Cody. I'm not sure what I was coding or Cody. I guess you haven't seen that yet, right? But you know that it's a new Star Trek on CBS, and it's over here in Europe. It's available on Amazon or Netflix. I can't even remember which. But in the United States, it's restricted to CBS All Access. I think Keith is asking, have you done any extra work? That's a great question. Have you done any extra work on films, in other words?
Extra? No, but I think, well, because I guess I'm pretty close to Chicago, but Wisconsin is not like a hub of any kind of film anything. But, you know, my parents have been traveling to California a lot, and as soon as I graduate, I convince them to take me with them sometimes. So maybe while I'm over there, I can do something.
Yeah, that's where it'll happen.
In the meantime, in the meantime, you just need to do some good kind of video vlog stuff and get yourself noticed, because the best thing that you've got is your character.
I agree. Abby, do you have a YouTube channel yet or not?
I don't, but you guys have inspired me, and now I'm thinking about it.
and you need to do a lot more at ClueCon, because you could be hosting big chunks of it.
Oh yeah, well actually, I will be next year.
Good.
I'm gonna be like a team leader of the Coder Games, so not just the FreeCYCLED Hacks, and I'm gonna be making a lot of announcements about kind of our social stuff, like, you know, the boat cruise and the gigabit reception. So you'll be seeing more of me.
Yeah, well, I hope so, because you are very good at that sort of thing.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's important to get people like stoked. A lot of conferences, it could be kind of like, you know, snoozy, but you know, you're there all day, and some people are interested in some things and not in other things. So it's good to keep the energy up.
Yeah, and I think you can certainly do that. You can certainly get people pumped up and moving, and keep it brief and lots of energy. That's what it's all about. And we want to see that brother of yours doing more camera work as well.
Oh yes, I think he'll be there. Eric, yeah.
Yeah, doing things with his little Wonder Cam.
Yeah, we'll be around interviewing people.
Yeah, well, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Abby, somebody in the chat room, IRC, mentioned voice work, and that's a good point. I mean, are you working on your voice? Are you doing things with that? Because there's a huge potential for that.
Absolutely, and clearly you can do British English, which Alison can't.
Oh.
Ooh.
Alison sounds like somebody off Bed Knobs and Broomsticks or whatever it is, or Dick Van Dyke, which is just not British. But I think you could probably do that.
Well, thank you. I've been thinking about it. The hard part is it's hard to break into, but I mean, why let that stop me? I actually, if any of you watch ClueCon Weekly, you know the beginning where it's like, "Hi, welcome to ClueCon Weekly."
Yeah, we noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's me. We got like a little really nice recording microphone and a little mini sound studio. So I've been practicing. So hopefully I can break into that. But it is a little bit difficult, but I'm going to try anyway.
Well, Alison sorted it all out, and she...
That's true. And she made a very successful career out of it.
Absolutely. And if she can, then I'm sure you can too.
Yeah, we were thinking about maybe re-recording some of the FreeSWITCH IVR, like on the phone. It was like, press 1. And so that would be me too. So that'll be 2 gigs down. So
yeah. Well, you ought to start with your own version of It's Lenny or something like that.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, and you could play a character, the harassed mother or something like that. No, put that dog down. No. Yeah, you could have a wonderful time.
I should do that, and then at the end of the video, I'll put you in the credits.
Yeah, it's Abby.
Abby, where are you in the tech end of all of this? So you're thinking about getting into, you know, personally, I am a terrible programmer, but I've been doing it for years. I've done a lot of programming, not for someone else, in my own space in my own company. When I had a company, we were doing, prototypes and showing people stuff. I know languages. I know many languages. I'm just terrible at it. But my point is that people are talking about coding, coding, coding.
Yeah.
You want to be exposed to it, and I guess you mentioned that you're going to be into it. And I'm curious how you see that. In other words, have you had exposure to any languages yet at all?
A little bit. Yeah, nowadays, when I was in high school and middle school, it was all, at least in America, it was all about just get your 4-year degree. Just get your 4-year degree and you will have no trouble finding a job. And then I'm in college and they're like, oh, just kidding. It's actually kind of hard to get a job now. And so now it's all about coding, computers, virtual reality, AI, like coding, coding, coding. And so a lot of people my age now are like just trying to get like the basics, but so that's where I kind of was like, oh, maybe I should learn. And I have really good resources all around me, like not just my dad, but
you know what? I'm not convinced. Sorry, I'm not convinced that you need to be coding, because the bit that you can do is the human bit. So if you do it right, you can have a dozen coders, guys who are really, really good at coding, but working for you. And all you do is the coordination bit and get them to do what you want them to do.
Yeah. Like there's an app, it's like VR chat, where everyone is like in a virtual reality room talking to each other. And I was thinking about it. I was like, well, these crazy engineers are like trying to send a car up into space, which is really important. These people who are spending their money really are just trying to connect with each other, which I think is really important, because of course we want to go to Mars, but the people who are like spending money really are just trying to, have a human connection with other people through technology, which I think is really cool.
And at the end of the day, successful teams are all about how they communicate. And in fact, you could almost write a dissertation on how the FreeSWITCH team communicate.
I could. I really could.
Because it's absolutely fascinating. You can study it for hours, the way how there's one person at the center of the web who seems to do all of the coding because he's very, very good at it. And everybody else kind of supports him and gives him all the bits he needs to do that.
Yeah. And what is the word? Working together, like I forgot the word, but working together can be kind of hard when everyone's so brilliant, because they all have so many good ideas. It's hard to like let them go. So it's good to have someone on your side who is kind of good at leading.
Yeah, well, or who can just communicate and facilitate. I mean, perhaps you don't see it, but that is just so valuable. And so what I'm thinking is you don't have to code yourself as long as you can facilitate.
I think it's interesting, Abby. I think it's interesting to get some sense of what that stuff's all about. But if it wasn't clear before what I said, I'm saying that everybody's underlining coding and saying, many of you have probably seen, there was a story about a guy who was homeless and then they taught him to code and now he's doing okay. That's great. But that is not going to save the world. And not everybody wants to do it. Not everybody's going to be good at it. And I'm the perfect example. I say I am not good at it, but I do understand it and I know what it is. So if I was talking to someone and I needed some coding done, I know just enough to be able to say what's hard and what's hard, or what's obvious, you know what I'm saying? So this is great. And I can also communicate with people about coding. So if somebody was over on this side saying, get this done, and somebody on the other side was actually doing the coding, I would understand the difference between those people, which is a universe size difference, really.
Yeah.
If you don't know, so it's great that you're getting exposure to that. I would not be disappointed if you never learned to actually sit down and use and do the coding. I don't think there's any problem with that. You don't necessarily need it. If you're inspired, though, if you love it, then go into it by all means. That's what I would say.
Good to know. And especially at like that weird age where I'm like just below millennial and I'm just above like the next generation. So when I was a kid, I didn't have a phone, but when I was in middle school, there were flip phones. And I was on the big Macintosh computers in computer class, and now I have my smartphone. So I'm like right on the cusp where I remember not having technology, but I also am very familiar with it. So it's kind of cool just to know how those things work also, because we're so reliant on it. Like, I don't know what I would do without watching Netflix on my iPhone. So it's nice to know like the history behind it and all the mechanics. And it makes it easier to communicate with people too, you know. So I'm taking a class right now on like making websites, so like HTML and CSS, and I try to teach myself Python a little bit, but so I'm like very baby beginner. So
Well, I think you can focus on the tech, but at a higher level. So the sort of stuff that we're playing with now, so video conferencing, because that's how you can reach out to people. Your audience is out there on the internet. But in order to be successful, you've got to be quite good at pressing the buttons, just like, I was going to say, just like Randy.
Yeah, well, I'm not that good at it because every week for the last 12 years, I have made at least one mistake. But that's not a problem.
Well, we can't all be like Michael, who never, ever, ever makes a mistake.
I don't think so.
Yeah, well. But anyway, that's the bit of technology I think you ought to focus on, Abby. It's not the nitty-gritty stuff, because you've got other people around you who can do that for you.
That's true. And I really like the communication side and the facility.
Yeah, isn't it great? There you are. You're somewhere in the middle of the USA, and you're recording this show with people all over the world.
Awesome.
It is. It's brilliant.
My age don't get to have that experience, but they really could if, you know, we just reach out, you know.
Abby, is there something that you're interested in that has absolutely nothing to do with anything we've been talking about? And by that, I mean, I'm just going to throw out a few examples. Are you crazy about golf or some sport or tea making or cooking? Now, I'm asking you this because this would be the start of a YouTube channel, would be some passion that you have that no one knows about. Do you have anything like that that is not related to what we've talked about so far?
Well, okay, I'll say two, because one's cheating and one answers the question. So the cheating one is because it kind of has to do with theater and costumes, is I really like cosplay. Like, I haven't gone to Comic-Con or anything. I really like movies and TV, and I love costumes, so I really like making those costumes for myself just for fun, because I'm like a big dork. But
well, have you got any good ones? What have you got?
I have a Rey costume, of course, from The Force Awakens, and I'm making one right now for The Last Jedi. And I have some Disney princess dresses that my mom made me for my birthday.
How sweet.
But my not cheating answer is I really love like water and swimming and like driving boats. I like just learned how to water ski. And I really like kayaking and swimming and, you know, snorkeling and all that kind of stuff. So I really like being on the water.
James, you know, Diana is a big kayak person, so maybe they should get
together. Yes. Dear old Diana.
Diana from Yate.
Yeah.
No, you've heard of that, Abby?
And not Range Networks.
Let's not get into that. What other things have we not covered? What kind of causes? Are you interested in all of these movements that come on the internet? Some are ridiculous. Some of the by that I'm talking about reactions to actually Bill Maher last week did a thing where he was showing headlines in different sites that talk about, you know, Twitter, so-and-so did something and Twitter was furious. And I think his point was that there are all these movements that mean nothing of people who get crazy on social networks. But my point was more to, are there things that you think, like I run a thing about saving the ocean, because I think that we're not very conscious of not just climate change, but also the ocean. We're putting tons and tons of plastics into it. And that's something that the internet can help raise consciousness for. Is there something that you're into that's related to that kind of thing?
Yeah, I try not to get too political on my social media just because, you know, nowadays everyone's watching you. But yeah, and there's a lot of people who are, you know, posting like memes that are like not entirely true. And I really try to like promote, you know, like thinking of both sides. But if I I'm very big on, I'm going to use this word like carefully because I know it has a stigma, but like feminism and like pro women, but it's less of like the stereotype that you think of and more of kind of like what we were talking about before, just like the idea that women are more nurturing and men like science more, and it goes into, you know, men's rights issues too, like, you know, men are, it's harder for them to win custody over their children in the United States at least, and there's this big stigma that they can't be emotional and they have trouble, you know, expressing their emotions. So it's a big thing in America, I think, you know, and, you know, just promoting, you know, on TV, you know, women who look like real women and less violence and all that kind of stuff. I don't want to get too political because I know it's a little controversial, but
no, you're right, and you mentioned something that's super important. You didn't use the word skeptical or critical thinking, but the fact is, and I'm impressed by that at your age, critical thinking is the #1 skill in my opinion.
yeah.
Everybody would nod their head and agree with me, because really that's what we're not getting today, and that's why the memes that you mentioned, these memes get echoed in the bubble of whatever, you know, political thing you're into, and you see more and more of them, and you agree with you meaning anybody, you agree with them, and then everybody passes them on, and that's very much what Facebook is about, which is why I left it completely and asked them to delete all that, which they don't never do, by the way. But the point is that you're right, and I understand the feminist angle, and you're right not to post anything too contentious because people are going to come back on it, whether it's right or not. You know, so yeah.
Social media is very emotional. It's very like first response. And I think those kinds of discussions should be like, you know, way hit in the back of your head first. And it's easier when you're talking to a real person with real experiences. It's really easy to click like the anger button, but it's harder to have a conversation with people. But yeah.
That's right.
And that's, I think that is probably your strength. I think you're able to do that. So yeah, I look at you, Abby, and I think, where are you going to be in 5 years' time? It's the world is your oyster.
Go over this.
I get really excited and emotional. I think, Abby, where are you going? Yeah, but the world is your oyster, seriously. And with all this internet-y type stuff now, you can do things that you couldn't do 10 years ago.
Yeah. Born at the right time.
Yeah, and I have to say, into the right family too, because you're right at the heart of it.
Yeah, and I've been surrounded by it my whole life pretty much, so I got that advantage.
Yeah, it's a huge advantage. So yeah, and the fact you've got your character and your intellect as well. You covered all of the angles. So yeah, get out there and hit them. And don't hide behind a costume design thing, because you can do a lot better than that.
Well, I think that's a start, and I think it's an interesting start. I think, Abby, I think that it's fascinating that, I mean, you have the vision, which is what we're doing here, to see that would be a way that you can express yourself in that medium, and that moves on to other things. I think that's fantastic. I think it's a great approach.
I want to see you doing things that take you slightly out of your comfort zone. So things like, dare I say it, dangerous demos are a great way of pushing you forward to do things that perhaps you would normally not do, which is good. You have to be bold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway.
So James, are you signed up for ClueCon for next year?
I am signed up for ClueCon. Kathleen's already pinned me to the wall. And
so you're trying to recruit Abby to help you with the dangerous demos right now.
Well, no, I'm hoping that Abby will be doing something bigger and better. And perhaps even comparing or co-comparing the whole of ClueCon, because I reckon you could do that, just to keep everything moving and bubbling and fun, because people go there because they want to have a fun time.
Yeah, that's what makes ClueCon special.
And, yeah, and that little bit that you did with the Coda game things, the maker thing, whatever it was brilliant. It had a huge amount of energy and fun, and I just want to see more of that.
Yeah.
And
What
you,
was that?
yeah.
What are you talking about? What did you
well,
do?
you weren't there. You weren't
Well,
there.
I
You
couldn't
didn't
be. Tell
see it.
us. Explain a little. I'll try to find.
The Coder Games, which is like our version of a hackathon, but a little broader. So we have lots of different things. And this year, there's going to be some surprises. We're going to have snacks. Yeah. Okay. So I led last year was the FreeCYCLED Hacks, which was kind of a way to get people who maybe aren't so technical heavy, like people like me, like people who are at the conference who are maybe in sales or are really good at programming but don't really feel like doing it that day, or people who have less of a technical background. And so we'd have everyday objects, and we had a challenge. And that year the challenge was to move a ping pong ball 1 foot in the most creative way possible. And so people built like little cars, like little tension cars with like the string, and it would like move the wheels. Someone built like a cool little ping pong gun. Like there were some ramps. There was like a roller coaster that lit up. They like connected it to the Raspberry Pi and it like lit up. It was really cool and it was a lot of fun. So we had a big contest where everybody showed off their design, and then we put them all on Facebook and everybody voted, and it was really cool. So we're going to do it again this year, but it'll be a different challenge. And it was really successful and really fun.
Yeah, it was really successful. But one idea is that the scope kind of wound up to a new level of tech, because you've got some of the brightest tech minds on the planet in that place.
Yeah.
And to give them a ping pong ball and say, do something with that is a bit kind of simplistic.
A lot of people said that too, yeah, but you know, they came up with really, really cool, complicated solutions, which was the goal. So.
Okay. Well, one of the things just to give you an idea, one of the things that we did at a TAD Summit, I managed to get half a dozen Ubuntu handsets. So they're like an Android phone, but the operating system is Ubuntu, and then put them in the hands of some of the best coding brains and said, what can you get working on that? And the winner, dear old Daniel Miele, had a complete mobile network infrastructure, but on a phone. So he was running all the phones in the room off a phone, which is so cool.
Yeah.
And
yeah, about the FreeCYCLED, like sometimes people get a little nervous, you know, they're like, oh, I'm supposed to be doing something amazing and super great. So the fun thing about the FreeCYCLED is, you know, it's low pressure. But yeah, this year we're going to have some things kind of like what you were mentioning, like high tech, like cool kind of challenges. So.
Yeah, we like that. And you know what? The other really great thing about ClueCon for me are the people. And for me, the highlight of last year was meeting dear old Fred from Uganda. What an incredible guy Fred is, isn't he?
He's amazing. Yeah, he's on our team now. I don't know if you guys have seen the Free Switch with Fred videos, but they're pretty cool.
Well, I love the Free Switch with Fred videos.
I know!
Because he comes on there with his African accent, and he's just brilliant, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, what you see is what you get with Fred. Yeah.
Okay, well, with that, we're trying to figure out if anybody else has any questions. I'm going to put that out to the IRC crowd. I'm actually, for once, looking at one of the reasons I fail, Abby, at all these things is because I'm listening at 800 screens of different things, including our Mastodon instance, which is masto.vuc.me. I'm looking at IRC, and and by the way, Keith is with us. I don't know, Keith. I don't know if you have anything to contribute, but if you do, hey, go.
Hey, I didn't say hello. I didn't butt in because you were talking. Yeah, I mentioned I asked the question on the on whether you've done extra work or not. I asked because I've actually done loads of extra work because there's a big film industry around where I am. There's Pinewood Studios and Leavesden Studios and all the Harry Potter films and a lot of Star Wars stuff. And
ooh, so what have you been in, Keith?
I have to be careful what I'm saying. If I, for instance, said that I was in Star Wars Force Awakens 7, then I would be breaking a non-disclosure agreement. So I'm not allowed to say that.
In it, right? But
Bridget Jones' Baby, I was in the film which just
were you the baby?
Yeah, no, I'm in the wedding scene on that. I've been in the film. I've not seen it yet. Finding Your Feet. I've been background in a James Bond film, Night at the Museum, a few
Keith,
TV things.
Yeah,
I'm well aware of what Pinewood Studios is, but remind people who are watching this who have never heard of it. It's a huge phenomenon. It's like Warner Brothers or something.
Pinewood
right?
Studio is a huge TV and mainly film production studios in Buckinghamshire. So it's just outside London in the UK. And it's been around for decades, and it was originally became well known because of the James Bond films, because all the James Bond films were shot there. And I think it still is the largest soundstage in the world or something there.
But wasn't it like Margaret Rutherford? I mean, they did everything there. Alec Guinness, they did a lot of the old Hamlet films, and it's gone for years. And recently, it's had a big expansion because a huge number they've got of American films are actually made in the UK. A lot of the Marvel Universe ones have been made here, or at least partially made here. All of the Star Wars ones traditionally have been made here, but they were originally made at one of the other studios, and they've moved to Pinewood now. All the Harry Potter ones are made at a film studio up the road, because there's Pinewood, and there's also Pinewood is more of a Disney kind of focused. There's a lot of the Disney and Universal stuff goes on there. The other major studios in the UK is Leavesden, and that's actually only about 30 or 40 miles away from Pinewood, and in Watford, which is again just outside London, and that's where all the Harry Potter franchise is filmed. And my daughter has actually just done a Harry Potter spin-off film, where she spent 2 weeks on set there. And we've also got a number of smaller studios around, which are used for smaller productions and TV work. So it's actually a very rich area around here for TV and film studio stuff. And they do a lot of, I don't know if you know, what's it called? The one with John Nettles, the TV show with John Nettles. The Murders one.
Yeah, Midsummer Murders.
Midsummer Murders. A lot of that is shot around this area as well. So I've not been in one of those yet, but there's
long story short, we need to get Abby over there.
But yeah, I mean, my question was, because I just wonder how much time you'd had on set, and yeah, one of the things I found is being on set so much is I'm inspired by how much of the set is run by people your age.
Oh, really?
And if I know that acting is a passion of yours, but there's so many other things going on set. And James was talking about sort of various options there, but some of those apply to set as well. I mean, I was on a set recently, and basically there's this 22-year-old girl just fresh out of university, but because she's been at university studying film and TV at university, she came out and she was immediately competent, and she was basically herding around a group of about 80 extras who are moaning about not getting enough heat and not getting enough cups of tea and not having food and all that sort of stuff. And she was just dealing with it, and she's on the headset and she's talking to the ADs, and there are so many people like that I meet on sets who are just looking after the ADs, or they're working with the camera crew, or whatever it is. There's a plethora of jobs, and they mostly seem to be filmed by young, bright talent like yourself. So, I know the acting is something you want to do, but keep your eye open in other areas as well, because there's lots of interesting jobs around that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you want to just stay in that world. Abby, unless anybody else immediately types something to the IRC window I'm looking at right now, or if any of the James or Keith or Michael wants to say anything, we're going to close it off and go to the mature audiences only format, which you're welcome to stay for, but you may have other things to do. You're a busy woman. Let's see what's going on here. I don't see anybody jumping in, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to say thank you very much, Abby. It was great to have you. You are a great guest, and we know you're going to do big things in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And
Thank
if
you
you
so much.
don't, I'll come and chase you.
Okay.
And we are going to kidnap you and bring you over to the United Kingdom, over to Pinewood. Keith will help you, introduce you to Pinewood Studios.
I love it.
And then we'll bring you over to France where we are, and we'll do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you guys do that. So.
All right, Abby. Thank you. Great to have you.